Hey, my name is Shai, and I'm a procedural shader artist. I've seen a couple shading issues that can really limit a shader's effectiveness. And to help some people learn shading, I've made a list of 10 things to avoid. They follow no particular order, I really just place them randomly, but I do hope you give them a listen and stop other people or yourself from making these shader mistakes. Alright, the first thing you should avoid is the bump map strength slider. When adjusting the effect of your bump map, this is the common slider to go to, but I would recommend avoiding it entirely. Strength acts as an opacity slider for your bump, while distance will allow you to maintain a realistic look, instead of getting these unrealistic in-betweens. I've used strength in past projects as a beginner, and it can really counteract a photoreal look on your shader. If you want to decrease the intensity of a bump map, just decrease the distance. Number 2. Avoid color ramps. Color ramps are actually limited compared to the map range node when manipulating values, since you can't use any other input for a value or position for one of these stops. These sliders here are called stops, by the way. But here's an example of what I'm talking about. When I use a color ramp to adjust the size of this circle, we can't add any noise directly to the stop here. But with the map range node, we can use noise as the dark stop input. They can definitely be daunting, but map range isn't that complicated. The first two sliders act as the corresponding stops for a color ramp, and the two bottom sliders act as the values for each stop on a color ramp. Number 3. Stop using generated texture coordinates. Generated stretches out your material along your geometry, even if you apply scale. Generated coordinates are created from a bounding box around your geometry, so it will stretch out when you manipulate your mesh. In case you didn't know, generated is the default texture coordinate system for all textures. Number 4. Stop searching. I have the answer. Searching for a node can be really inefficient in some cases. I prefer to add my frequently used nodes to my quick favorites, so I can add them really quickly. This is probably less important when you don't make super large node setups, but I actually like using quick favorites all the time. And if you want to get the most out of quick favorites, you can add a lot more to the list. I've made entire shaders without searching for a single node. Number 5. Stop being disorderly. No, I don't just want you to clean your room, I want you to enable snap to grid. This one mainly applies to a perfectionist, since it makes everything way easier to read, and you spend less time trying to align nodes to one another. Here's an example. I use snapping for the top one, and if you couldn't tell, I'm placing these bottom ones manually. It's way quicker to use snap to grid, and I apply this to all of my shaders. You can enable it up here in the snapping toggle. You can also select other kinds of snapping. Number 6. Stop wasting space. Use Ctrl-H to hide unused sockets. This applies to both sides of the nodes. I mainly use this for the texture coordinate and vector rotate nodes, since they can take up a lot of space if they aren't collapsed. Number 7. This one's pretty minor, but still important. Avoid using saturated colors. Fully saturated colors usually don't appear in real life, and it can be a telltale sign that your images are CG. Tip number 8. Stop ignoring vector math. Understanding vector math allows you to manipulate so many things in shaders, like normals, positions, and texture coordinates. Even this is done in shader math. Do learn normal math nodes first though, since vector math nodes are just like normal math nodes, but applicable to all axes. Here's an example of vector math nodes manipulating a noise texture, bringing extra control to your noise. Number 9. If you want to learn shading, buying images and shaders is not the way to do it. Try to recreate way simpler shaders on your own. And you don't even need YouTube to answer your questions. Just use the official Blender reference manual and read about the nodes you're curious about. The way most people learn modeling, including me, is by recreating things we see in the real world, like a lamp or a mug. Then, when we feel comfortable with the software, we can create things we imagine, like the Pokeball I made. Tip 10. You've made it to the final tip. Shaders aren't just noise generators. While noise does play a large role in adding imperfections, Shading can go the opposite way, to add orderly details. I've recreated a lot of logos with only shader nodes, and as you can tell, none of them have a single use for noise. Try to think outside the box and tell stories with shaders, instead of using shaders to add more grime or dirt to an object. And those were 10 mistakes you should avoid in Blender shading. I hope you liked it. My mistake when making this video was forgetting to add the float curve node, since it can outperform both the color ramp and map range node in some aspects. And as a bonus, mistake 11 is to not subscribe to my channel. It is detrimental to many shader artists around the world who commit such a massive fallacy. Thanks for watching. Bye.